All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first inaugural episode of the Dads Talk Shit podcast. With me, I have my co-host John Richter. John, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for everybody?
Hello. Well, you just said it. My name is John Richter, and I am a recently new dad. Got a son who just recently turned 6 months. 6 months.
6 years
Yeah,
old.
I'm a brand new dad. I've had a kid for 6 years now.
Yeah, he
No,
just he lived a secret life. He never met his son. His son is actually 6 years old.
just found out that I had. No. He's gonna turn 7 months soon, and it's awesome. I love it.
That's what's up, man. I'm glad that I finally like met Noah since the
Yeah.
quarantine. Like only time I got to see him was like through FaceTime and video chats. So
Yeah.
again, another formal congratulations to you and Alejandra.
Thank you.
Um, enjoy the journey now because these are the easy.
Yeah, he's already getting too big because he's like getting to the point where like when I'm holding him, like for him to fall asleep, he's like too long now. He's getting too tall, and he's got like a tooth growing in, and he's starting to sit up on his own. So it's just like time's flying by. Like before I know it, I'm not even gonna really be able to just hold him anymore. He's gonna be too big. He's gonna be wanting to walk around, not being held all the time. He's gonna want to explore.
Yeah, and it goes by faster than you think, and that's one of the questions I want to ask you as a new dad. Um, what were some of the fears or challenges that you were expecting or you were kind of like weary about facing being a new dad? Like, what was something that kind of concerned you?
One thing that worried me, and it's just because I've always been an only child and I've never been around kids like really my whole life. Like even in my family's not very close. And so it's like I've never really been able to interact with like babies or little kids or anything. So I've never ever had a connection with a small with like a child. I've never had a connection, emotional connection at all with a child in my whole life.
Right.
So except for, maybe like, like my wife's, little brother, but that's still different because he at that point he was already like 3 or 4 when I met him. And
Right.
it's still a little different because, I just didn't grow up with it. So one of my fears was that I wasn't going to be as attached. Like one of my fears is because a lot of times it gets really frustrated with me if I can't like do what I want to do or concentrate on what I'm doing, or like say if I'm playing a video game or watching TV or doing homework or just doing something, and like I have to constantly step away from what I'm doing to take care of stuff. And that's one of the things I was worried about was like, like if this baby needs my constant attention all the time, am I going to be okay with that, or like, what if I don't have that connection, or like, what if I don't want to play with him? What if I would rather play video games? Like, these are just like fears that went through my head because, and there's one thing that my friend always told me, and one thing that I also like understood was like I always told myself like I never understood what like the bond between a parent and child, because I've just never understood like what it would be like to have a child and love them so much. And my friend would always tell me, my friend Joey would always tell me like, you think that, but then as soon as you have that baby, you just understand. And he was right. Like as soon as Noah was born, I understood exactly what he meant. Like I love him so much, like I don't mind stepping away to take care of him. I don't mind stepping away from what I'm doing. I love holding him. I love spending time with him. Like I would do anything for him. Like I'm just so in love with him. So it's like I just can't, like those fears that I had before, like they're just totally gone because I know like as soon as I saw him, like I just fell in love with him.
Yeah, it's like when the baby comes, it's like an unspoken bond. Like
Mhm.
all those worries and all those fears that you have, they kind of like wash away. Like when you finally hold the baby, it's just like, yo, there's nothing I wouldn't do for like this little human right here. Like
Yeah.
you get what people mean when they say like I would die for this baby. Like
Yeah, because I would.
like literally, literally. Um,
Yeah.
when you said like stepping away from doing what you were doing, like if you were playing a video game or like whatever you were doing, you were scared that you wouldn't want to like step away from that to put your focus towards the baby.
Yeah, I was afraid that I would care more about games just because gaming has been like a huge part of my life. Like always, ever since I was a little kid, ever since I have memory, there's been video games. Like I even before I even understood how to play video games, I remembered video games.
Right.
So it was just like it's not that I was worried that I wouldn't want to step away from it's not that I was worried that I wouldn't want to step away. I was worried that like it would just really, really frustrate me. But I was worried that I was worried that I would rather spend time playing video games than with my son. That's what I was worried about. Just because I didn't understand what that bond was like to 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 have a child, you know. So that was just like a fear of mine. I'm like, you know, because I have a lot of my own personal issues, and I'm like, what if, you know, what if I just don't want to spend as much time with him? And now it's to the point where I'm like, I love spending time with him. I would much rather spend time with him, and I couldn't imagine not being with him. Like when I think about how people, like how fathers will like leave their child and their family, or when people, you know, abuse their children, or like just things like that. I'm just thinking to myself, like, how could, like, I just don't understand how they could do that, because I couldn't imagine not being with him, or like I couldn't imagine not giving him the attention, you know.
Yeah, and that's one of the like things when I remember when I had Avery, I was in college and I didn't drop out because of Avery, but I dropped out, you know, like financial reasons. But
Hmm.
when Avery was born, that was something I thought about too, because at that age I had Avery, I was like 22, 23. So I was still kind of like going out every night to the clubs to drink,
Hmm.
going to parties and things like that. I was worried about that aspect of my day-to-day routine of going being able to just get up and go when I wanted to go. And
Hmm.
like having the baby, I was like, well, you know, I was under that belief that once you have a baby, your life kind of stops. Like it's not the same anymore. Or it ends. Like some people think your life ends when you have a baby because all your focus goes towards the baby. And so I was weary of that because I'm like, damn, I'm not going to be able to go out on the weekends anymore. I'm not going to be able to do this anymore because I'm going to have my daughter.
Hmm.
And as time went on, all of that other stuff, like going out to the bar, going out to drink, going out to parties, it became irrelevant because, like you said, I fell in love with being a dad and like being there and building that bond with my daughter, even though she couldn't move or speak, and you know, she just laid there. But that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
more fun. That was more fun to me just watching her than going out and getting drunk at a bar. Like,
Hmm.
and then it was like I had my mom to tell me like, your life doesn't stop. Like she's like, there'll be weekends where, you know, I'll watch her for, you know, a weekend while you go out. That way you just still kind of have some sort of social life. And I know a
Yeah.
lot of people don't have that. So for that, I'm like fortunate. And, you know, I didn't take that for granted back then, but I didn't always throw Avery onto my mom just so I could go out and have a good time. Like I sacrificed, especially in those younger years, I sacrificed going out to party to just stay home, and I would bring the party to the house.
Hmm.
So with that, like, and then it's like they don't stay that size forever. Like you said, Noah's getting longer, so before
Yeah.
he'll be walking and crawling and talking. So
Hmm. Yeah.
as far as like those type of myths, like, do you feel like what's the word I'm looking for? Do you feel like your life has come to a pause in some sort of way? Do you feel
No, I look
like
at
you're
it as
still
like it's like a whole new chapter, because yeah, there's definitely things that I can't do anymore. But I think the pros outweigh the con, you know, the cons. Like yeah, like I can't just go out and do whatever I want whenever I want anymore, you know, or you know, I can't just like go camping on a weekend, or like if we travel and we go somewhere, we have to worry about, like, you know, Noah. Like we went to Colorado a couple months ago in May, and you know, there's a lot of stuff that we had to make sure not revolve around him, but we have to always make sure that he's like on our mind, you know, like when we take him on the plane, when we go into the mountains, when we go anywhere, you know. So like we always have to think about that, but it's never really stopped us from doing the things that we really want to do. And I feel like just having him there, opens new opportunities. Like I'm just so excited to relive my childhood again, like doing stuff like going to the zoo and the aquarium, playing with like blocks and Legos and stuff, or like whatever he's interested in. Like I'm excited to just kind of relive my childhood through him, do new things, show him the world, watch him get excited about things that don't excite me. You know what I mean? Like we're like, we're a lot older now, so it's like we don't just get excited by like the simple things anymore.
Right.
So when I see his smile light up just because he feels a fabric he hasn't felt before, or like when he looks at our dog, or like when eventually when we start taking him to like the zoo and taking him places and stuff like that, like just like I'm just excited to see his excitement from the world and do new things with him. Like I'm excited to be a father. So I don't think like your life stops. Like it's just, to me it feels like it's just like a new chapter. You're in a new stage of your life. There are some things you're not going to be able to do anymore. There are some things you're not going to be able to do as much anymore, but there are a bunch of things that you never got to do that you will now be able to do.
Yeah. And speaking on like just watching like his expressions change, what excites me when I see Noah is when I hold him and he's just chill and calm.
Mm-hmm.
The shift to when Gervais
Yeah.
comes into the room and starts crying.
Gervais he barely touched him, and like touched him on his hand or whatever. He just starts crying.
that is things like that, like seeing their personalities develop. Like you're raising, you and Alejandro are raising like a son, so you guys are raising a boy. So it's going to be completely opposite from me, raising two girls.
Mm-hmm.
And they both have their own personalities. Like Majesty is affectionate and emotional, and she shows her affection and her emotions and she tells you, like she's vocal and she's like physical. Avery is more so action behind, like she won't tell you how she feels, she'll show you. She'll show her affection. So that's the difference in their personalities.
Oh, okay.
And like raising two girls, I know it's going to be challenging because hormones and estrogen, and once they get to the age where they start to have periods and get on their cycles, I know that's going to be a challenge for me.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm definitely probably going to lose my hair about, because I'm not really going to be, I don't know, I mean, they have their moms to walk them through it. But when they're with me, it's going to be like, damn, I got to buy the pads and, all of that girly stuff that you won't have to worry about because you have a boy. You'll just have to talk to him about and erections and shit like that.
That's still gonna be awkward though. That's still gonna be awkward though. I mean, honestly, for me, I never like had like the talk with my dad. Anytime he tried, I just avoided it. Like I never felt comfortable talking to my dad about personal issues like that growing up. So it's like, obviously, I mean, you learn all this stuff by the time you're in middle school on your own anyways, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you watch videos, there's porn, there's TV, like there's the internet, like it's just like I learned everything on my own, so it's like anytime my dad tried to like have the talk with me, I just pretended like I didn't like girls yet, because there's always an age where it's like, as little kids they don't like girls, they think girls are gross with cooties and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But then as you get older, then you start getting interested in the girls and stuff like that. So I just always played it off to my dad like I just wasn't at that stage yet. I just don't like girls yet, just because I didn't even want to talk to him about it. So I don't know how that's going to be with Noah. I don't know what that's going to be like. But I have a question for you. So how do you feel about when they get old enough to date? Are you going to have any rules? Are they not allowed to date until they're a certain age? Like, what are your rules with dating? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, because now they're at the stage in their age where they're into more big kid like shows, like Disney Channel shows and shows where like there is a romantic love interest with the main character. So now they're at the point where they're talking about, well, like even when they play with their toys, they're like, oh, this is such and such's boyfriend, and things like that. So they know about like dating and boyfriend and girlfriend and things like that. I have to talk with them when they're with me. Like, put your worry about a boyfriend later down the line when you're much older. Like,
Hmm.
worry about getting through school first when the time comes, getting you a good job, and then let everything else come after that. Don't
Hmm.
go putting all your effort towards finding a boyfriend. When you get
Hmm.
close to that, like,
Yeah.
I'm
Do you
not
think
gonna
you would go ahead?
I'm not gonna be the type of dad who instills fear into their child, because I want them to be able to come to me as well and
Hmm.
be open and talk. And I don't want to find out, like, the way I was raised, my parents kept an open relationship with me. They wanted me to be able to come to them and talk about anything. And I want the same thing for my girls. I want them to be able to come to me and talk about boy problems or girl problems, whichever way the boat floats. I want
Hmm.
them to be able to express themselves the way I was able to express myself to my parents whenever I was going through something. Um, so for them, I always say, like, when you're older, and by older I mean when I feel like, I've seen that maturity of you where you can actually handle what comes with a relationship.
Hmm.
If you get my drift, like that
Yeah.
15-year-old mark, that's where you kind of start, when you're ready for a relationship.
Yeah. I was just wondering because a lot of fathers, they're like, you're not allowed to date till you're like 18 or
Yeah,
19.
nah.
I was wondering if you're gonna be like the one of the like the dad from Bad, like one of the dads from Bad Boys, you know, like when
No,
they bring a boy.
actually, I do. I want to get you guys. I'm gonna get all of you guys. I'm gonna get you, Scott, and Dino, Gervais, and Jashawn, and we're gonna just recreate that whole scene in layman's term from Bad Boys 2, where it's just
Yeah.
we all like intimidate the boyfriend.
Right. We
I
got it.
do,
It's like we're interrogating him. One of
I
us is
do,
gonna be like bad cop,
I
good
do
cop.
want to like instill just like enough fear in whoever they date to where
Just
they
to
know,
tell,
like,
just to tell them like you better not try anything. You better not
yeah,
hurt her. No,
yeah,
they're literally scared of the consequences.
literally scared of the consequence. I'll make up a story
Yeah.
like I've been to jail for something wild. Like, I don't know. I just got you gotta instill like
Yeah.
a little splash of fear.
I killed a man, and then during his funeral, when they opened the casket, I killed him again.
I killed him again. I woke him up and I killed him again.
I learned. I went to school, became a doctor, got into got into a bunch of scientific, research just so I could learn how to bring him back to life, just so I could kill him again.
Just so I could kill him again. That's the level of fear I want. Whether they believe it or not, I want that level of fear, like in their boyfriend or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, I'm gonna make a shift and I'm gonna bring up a topic like, let's say society wise, right?
Hmm.
Let's say, because this is what's going on in like culture and society, like today, right now, it's a big thing going on with the LGBTQ community, right?
Hmm.
Let's say Noah decided when he got older that he wasn't into women. Let's say he was into men,
Hmm.
and he decided to come to you and Alejandro, or he decided to come to you and say, "Hey, Dad, look, I like men." How supportive do you think you would be of him, or how supportive would you be of him?
I
Or
think that I think I would be very supportive. Well, one, just the courage that it would take him to actually come to his parents, because a lot of people, they hide it from people, especially their parents. They don't. They're afraid of what they'll think of them or how they're going to react. Some parents probably react violently. Because some parents are like, not just there's those parents that are against it, and then there's those parents that are like vehemently against it,
right,
like, so like just the fact that they were able to like come to us, or that he would be able to come to us and talk to us about it, just proves that our relationship is that close and open already. So I would be very supportive, because no matter what, that's my child, that's my son. Like, nothing's going to change just because of who he's interested in and who he's not interested in, you know? So
Right.
I think I would be very, very supportive, especially for the fact that, like, I've thought about a lot of how I want to raise him, and I just want to have such a close relationship with him, and I want him to know that he always has support. I don't ever want there to be a point of his life where he feels like we don't support him. I mean, unless he's like trying to, like, do cocaine or something like that. I'm not going
Yeah,
to support
God,
that.
yeah, no. I mean, if he does decide to do cocaine, like, he got Andino we could teach, we can all move to Cuba or Colombia and we can
Yeah, I saw that
get
episode of Shark
involved
Tank.
with, yeah. Just do
Yeah,
Shark Tank. We could get involved with the cartel
yeah.
and
If he says like, "Dad, I have something to tell you. I don't like women. I don't like men. I like cocaine." Then I would be like, you know what? I'm gonna hook you up with our friend Andino. So that's
yeah, we'll just hook him up and we'll all move to Cuba or Colombia. And instead of doing film and media stuff, we'll just smuggle
mhm,
drugs.
yeah. But I feel like when a child confesses something like that to their parents, and their parents, like, if a parent like disowns them, or
Yeah,
does not support them at all, I feel like that can create such a rift in your relationship to the point where, like, you can drift apart at that point, and no matter what, even, like, I'm going to be okay with it. I've already thought about it. I'm going to support him and love him no matter what.
yeah, and I think a lot of problems where I think it's closed-minded of parents not to support their child just because of their sexual preference. Like
Yeah,
it doesn't change who they are. They're still your kid. Like,
yeah,
and I think that damages the kid a lot because if you can't rely on your parents for support, that's like your main pillar. And if that
mhm,
crumbles, then the whole structure crumbles. And I think that could lead to, like you said, a rift in a relationship. I think that can lead to them wanting to do self-harm to themselves because they'll feel
yeah,
like they're alone.
yeah, make them feel bad. And,
Yeah.
like, you got to think of it. It's not about how it makes me feel. It's about how
Mhm.
it makes him feel. And,
Yeah.
like I just don't think a lot of parents think about that. Like, what do they think they're going to gain by not accepting their child? Like, do they think that the child's just going to be like, "Oh, maybe I was wrong. I'm not gay anymore." Like, what do the parents think? What do the parents think are going to happen if they say, "No, I don't accept this"? Like, what do you think is going to happen? That he's just going to automatically change back to not,
And
to
become
like,
heterosexual.
yeah, he's going to become heterosexual just because you don't agree with it. No, all it's going to
No.
do
Yeah.
is, one, it's going to make you feel, it's going to make the parents feel either, like, it's not about how the parent feels about it, because it's not their life, but how a parent reacts is and treats the child is going to seriously affect them mentally and emotionally, you
Right.
know so it's not about us as parents. It's about them, and making sure that they feel supported and loved no matter what. Their love is not conditional. No matter what, we
Right.
love the children,
Right. And like the whole thing with society is also like changing gears just a little bit.
mm,
Um, raising a son and raising a daughter is two different things. And
mm,
obviously, we both come from different cultures and different
mm,
backgrounds and ethnicities. And with like everything that has gone on and is still going on with like police injustice, like is that
mm,
something you think would be important to raising a child to tell them about? Especially like we both have biracial kids, but
mm,
you know, you're of Caucasian and I'm of African American ethnicity.
mm,
So
yeah,
we won't ever face the same challenge.
yeah. Hmm.
So is that something you would bring to like you think that it's important to bring up when
I
you're
think it. I think it is, because whether people want to believe it or not, like, discrimination happens,
Mhm.
and I've heard a lot of stories. And the thing is that, like, people don't care that he's half white or half Hispanic. Like, they're gonna see, like right now he's pretty light skinned, but he still looks darker than me. So
Right.
it's, it's like he's mixed, it's clear
Right.
that he's mixed. But and I've read a lot of stuff, and it's like when they like if he's out on the street or something like that, or like say if he's in the wrong place at the wrong time, like a lot, like they're gonna like no matter what, like they're they're not gonna see a mixed kid. They're gonna see a Hispanic kid.
So, yeah.
Like you can look at him and be like, oh, he's Hispanic, but you can't always say like, oh, his dad's white.
Right.
Like stuff like that. So it's like I definitely think it's important because like so for me, I also think it's a lot of his perspective because like obviously like everyone's going to get treated differently by cops. Like I've, for one, actually had some pretty bad experience with cops. Nothing to the point where like I've ever been arrested or anything, but I've had some cops treat me like absolute dog shit before.
Right.
And I've been legitimately scared in certain situations. I've had a cop accuse me of trying to slam on the brakes to make him crash into me. I've had a cop accuse me of being on drugs when I was 16 and accuse me of lying about it when I said no, I'm not on
Right.
drugs.
Right.
Like I've had, like I've been pretty scared before, but like nothing compared to some of the situations that like an African American would deal with, like you said, you and I are never going to deal with the same challenges.
Right.
So obviously my encounters with police are going to be a lot different. And for me, I was always taught um like respect the police no matter what. Like that it's that whole saying, if the police officer says bow down, you bow down. That was the mentality I was raised with. I
Right.
don't agree with that now, but growing up as a child, that was my mentality. So if I ever saw a cop, if I was ever talking to him, I always said like yes sir, no sir. If the cop ever told me what to do, I just did it no matter what. Or
Right.
if I always had the mentality, don't run because that just makes you look suspicious. But as I grow up and I learn more about the world, I realize that's not true for everyone because one, not everyone is raised like that. And two, not everyone has that opportunity because like now I totally understand why some people run, because they don't want to be like the next George Floyd. Cops are not always good just because you are good, like I've seen
You got
there
bad
have been
cops out here.
stories. Yeah, like one thing that really pissed me off was there was like it was like a Walmart or something like that, and there was like a shooter in there, and it was an African American who risked his life to run in there to stop the shooter. He
Right.
risked his life to stop the shooter, and I believe he did stop the shooter. But as he was coming out, the cops got there, and all they saw was a black man at the crime scene with everyone running away, and he's the one who got shot by the police and killed. So I see too many things like that. I've seen too many things about people being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's just, and I might just be going on a rant here, but like I absolutely think that I don't know how I'm gonna handle it, but it's definitely something that I feel is important to bring up with him so that he understands, like he just needs to know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, what do you think?
I think it's important, even now, more so like with Avery, because she's biracial, and I don't want her to just have one view of like, you know what I mean? Like I don't want her to have this tunnel vision. I want her
Yeah.
to see everything like broaden the spectrum a little bit.
Mhm.
Being biracial, like you said, looking at her, you could like some people might look at her and just say, okay, she's a light-skinned black girl. Some people will look at her and say, obviously she's mixed, right?
Mhm.
So I won't have to worry as much as if I had like a biracial son.
Mhm.
Because what I would probably more so have to worry about, and I think what any parent has to worry about, is the crowd of company that your kids are going to keep around them when they get older.
Yeah.
Like if Avery or Majesty is in a car with, I mean, and usually parents are usually good at judging the type of company you have,
Mhm.
or before you even know it. But it's up to the kid whether they want to listen to that judgment or not. And
Mhm.
I only hope that they will. Like, So that's the only worry I think I will have to face is what kind of people are they going to keep around them? Like if they get into a car, are they in a car with somebody that's on the right side of the law, or are they in a car with people that have constant run-ins with police officers?
Hmm.
If they get pulled over, you know what I'm saying? Are they going to be caught in a situation where they might not have did anything, but because of who they're associated with, they all take the fall?
Hmm.
That's a worry as a parent, that when your child leaves the house, what
Yeah.
what's going to happen to them?
Yeah, and I
Like,
do agree with you. Maybe I misunderstood what you were asking, but yeah, I agree. And pretty much like I was just rambling on to explain my thought process, but pretty much I'm just afraid that because I've never had to deal with stuff like that as much, I've never had to be I've never been racially profiled or anything. But
right.
since now that I do have a mixed child, I'm just worried that as he gets older, I'm just scared that that is something that might happen to them. And also hanging out with the wrong crowd. And I also want them to learn not to be a dumbass, because you still gotta be smart, like
Yeah.
look, one of the smartest things I've learned, and it has to do with not only cops but avoided being a victim of a violent crime or anything, is like don't be doing dumb things in dumb places at dumb times.
Times. Yep.
Yep. So
Yep.
it's like don't be riding your bike in a bad neighborhood at 11 o'clock at night. Like
Yep.
that's just doing a dumb thing at a dumb place at a dumb time. Like you may not be doing anything, and it's not your fault if you're a victim, but it is a very clear way to avoid things.
Just stay out of areas that you know you're not supposed to be in at a certain time, or
Yeah, or just like don't do dumb shit you're not supposed to be doing.
that too.
Like
Yeah.
Like I saw a kid that got shot at because they pointed a water gun at a cop.
Yeah. That's
Like, yeah, it was just a water gun, but like that was just dumb. Like, why would you do that? Like, why
and
would you do that?
would you blame that on the parents for not, like, some people
I
might
would,
say, oh, it all starts at home. So whatever you teach your kid at home
yeah.
goes
I
out
need
in the
to,
street.
yeah. I want to teach my kids to respect the police and understand the law so that they don't do anything dumb. Because, but I also want to teach them that not all like not all cops are good. Like I need to teach them to be smart and just think things through and try not to put them in those not to put themselves in certain situations, because the best way is to avoid it. Like the best way is to just do your best to avoid a bad situation. Like,
Right.
and yeah, I do kind of blame the parents, because not only that, and maybe they didn't teach them. Like,
Right.
I mean, one thing that I was taught was just don't point guns around at people pretending like they're real. Like, even as a kid, like just like when I was a kid, I learned don't play around when you're at a community pool or any pool and pretend to drown. I've seen
Yep.
so many kids being at a pool and pretend like they're drowning, and that's
They
not
think it's
okay.
cool. Yeah. They think it's cool
Yeah,
because it's like, oh, look how long I can hold my breath. Right. But
yeah.
what happens if you're really about to drown? It's boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, or I've seen little kids be in the same pool with me, and they're like, "I'm drowning, I'm drowning." I'm like, "Are you really drowning? Don't play with me."
They don't.
Like,
Yeah. There's things like there's just certain things you, like you say, you don't do. Like
yeah. And
it's certain-
I was taught like you don't point guns at people even if they're fake. But like, I mean, unless it's different if you're playing around and stuff but like if you're out on the street, like if
yeah.
you're out on the street, you don't point anything that looks like a gun at anybody, let
Hey,
alone a cop.
the way we were raised is don't point a gun or a weapon, and don't, especially a gun. Don't point a weapon or a gun at somebody unless you plan on using it.
Yeah, and on another note to that, one thing that you learn in the army is, because you see it in a lot of movies too, and a lot of videos of people posing with guns and money because they think they're cool posing with guns and money, but
Yeah.
they always have their finger on the goddamn trigger.
On the trigger. Yeah.
That's how you accidentally shoot yourself or shoot
Or
someone else.
somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, what we learned is even when we're in the field, even when we're out doing a mission, you do not have your finger on the trigger unless you're actually ready to fire. Like we could be storming a compound, but unless I'm actually about to fire that weapon, like I could be in a hostile situation, but your finger will never be on the trigger unless I'm actually about to shoot somebody. And that's just like when I see people with their finger on the trigger all the time, I'm like, that's so dumb. All it takes, because for handguns, most handguns are double action and single action, whereas like the first shot, it takes a little longer to squeeze before it shoots off. But after that first shot, it is so easy to pull that trigger back and shoot it again. So
Right.
literally just the smallest fuck up is just the smallest pull of the finger, and you could shoot yourself in the foot, in the leg, go right through your femoral artery, hit your friend, shoot the goddamn wall and hit your mom upstairs, anything. Like, it's just so dumb. So that was a little off topic.
Now it's going to happen. We're going to get off topic like a couple of times just because it's who we are, and some of these topics require like elaboration. So
and another thing I wanted to say before we get off the topic is, if anything, if the way I'm talking at all about like cops or race sounds kind of awkward, it's also just because I also don't fully know how to talk about it, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Like, me as a white person, it's hard for me to talk about it, not because of my views, just because I just don't know how to bring it up or go about talking about it, if that makes any sense. So if I sound awkward or anything I say sounds off, that's why. I'm not meaning any like disrespect in any way. It's just I'm used to having to talk about it. And I'm always trying to be careful with anything I say. So it's like it might come off as like weird or anything. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, and even if we like, that's the beauty of like podcasts, and like we get to capture like genuine emotions and like reactions and actions. It's not like pre-thought out. It's like we know what topic we're going to talk about, but we just don't know like the intricate details, because it's more genuine and raw when it's like on the spot.
Yeah, and you're my friend, and I trust you enough, and I know we're close enough to where I could talk to you about it.
I know. Yeah, I know where you stand on the fence. So it's not going to be like, whoa. It's not going to be no hostility. So,
whoa, wait a second. We're gonna have to end this podcast now.
John, I don't think we can do this anymore. I'm gonna have to delete you on Facebook and
break up with me on live.
Yeah, that's it. We're done. We're over. No, but one more thing before we end this, though. Goal wise, well, not goal wise. Let's talk briefly about beliefs on discipline. Have you and Alejandra, like, I know, like for me, like Summer, Avery's mom, Summer, she wasn't one for like physical discipline, and me, I wasn't against it. It just was never going to be my first method of like correcting a bad behavior.
Yeah,
that wasn't going to be like my first, even though that's how I was probably raised as a kid, I wasn't going to raise my kid like that.
Yeah.
I want to instill like respect in them. And certain matters, sometimes certain matters you may have to resort to like a tap on the leg or a tap on the arm. And then explain why that happened, rather than just a pop on the leg or a tap on the arm with no explanation why.
Yeah.
And so have y'all talked about that?
Yeah, my view is actually exactly like yours. It's actually funny. Before I had a child, I was the exact opposite. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna hit my child. I'm gonna smack my child. I'm gonna, smack him in the face, hit him, and all that stuff. But that's because literally because that's how I was raised.
Right.
So I thought that was normal. I thought that that's just how you were disciplined, until as I got older, I realized people are talking about when like they see someone yelling at their child and they're like, that's like child, like that's abuse. And I'm like, what? What? Like when I found out that, and don't get me wrong, I was like, I had a great mom, a great dad and everything, but like, my parents were not the best. So it's like they didn't have any good role models to go off of, and they always did their best, especially since, you know, like I was raised mainly by my father. He was a single father like pretty much my entire life. So it was always him. He worked full time, so it was hard, definitely. And he had a crap father, like a crap father, not just like, not like he wasn't there, but like abusive, drunk, stuff like that. So that's how he was treated, and he always tried to do better for me. But still, my dad is also being military man. He was really strict. So, you know, I grew up getting, you know, spanked with a hand, which eventually turned into a belt, which eventually turned into a wooden paddle he made himself. I was screamed at for the smallest things, like forgetting something, and I had ADHD, or, you know, or like if I was bothering him too much for something, or I never had the opportunity to, like, anytime I were to try to explain myself or defend myself, I always got the, you just love to argue, don't you? You know,
Right,
stuff,
right.
stuff like that. So it's like, or I would get like smacked in the face in front of like my step family. You know, I get smacked in the face, smacked inside the head, um, screamed at to the point where, like, you know, like spit would be going in my face and stuff. But it got to the point where I just thought that was normal. And believe me, I had it way easier than other people. Like, it sounds bad the way I say it, but like I never thought that I was being abused or anything like that. It's just he was just very strict.
That's
So,
what
but I thought that was
yeah.
normal until I like talked to my wife, and I hear from other people talking about like how, like, they're just appalled when they hear about like kids getting hit or spanked or yelled at, or like my wife was like so against it when I was like, when I would say like, yeah, like if he acts up, or, you know, I'm gonna smack him across the face, you know. I'm like, just because I thought that that was
That's
normal.
normal. That's what you
I
were
thought
used to.
I thought that that was how you punish and discipline your kids. I just thought that that's how you did it, because that's what always happened to me.
Right.
So, and it happened but now I'm to the point where it's like, because all that didn't do anything for me. All
Right.
that did was instill fear in me, to the point where I lied a lot. And the reason I lied a lot was because I knew that I couldn't come to my dad about anything,
And
because
that's
I knew, yeah, I knew that I could not come to him with anything, because if I ever told him the truth about something bad that I did or a mistake that I made, I
was
knew it would end up bad for me.
yeah.
But I knew that if I lied, I at least had a chance of not getting smacked or grounded or hit, or, you know.
You kind of got
So
to escape from
I
that. Yeah.
yeah, and I realize that, and I don't ever want my son to be too afraid to talk to me about mistakes or about things in his life, because he's too afraid of how I'm going to react.
Right.
So that was the main thing. Like, and my dad always felt bad about it. He almost always apologized, but the way he reacted was so scary to me that that's why I would always avoid telling the truth if I knew, if I thought I had a chance of avoiding all that. And I just don't want that to happen with him. I don't ever want to hit him, like spanking on the butt a little bit. That's one thing, but I don't ever want to like smack him upside the head, smack him across the
That's the
face. I don't
thing.
want to ever
No.
use like a belt or a paddle or anything. I I do have a bit of an anger issue with how I react to things,
Yeah.
when it comes to like my temper. So I'm working on that, because I don't want to blow up and yell at him and scream at him for anything. Like,
Right.
I need to. It's something I'm still working on, honestly. Like, we still talk about it. We're still working on it, because what is the best way, like, how do you ground them, like, no matter what, like, it's not ever going to be like, I'm going to ground them. They're going to be like, yeah, I know I did wrong. Sorry, daddy. Yeah, I love you. Like, there's going to be points where they're mad at you,
Yeah.
especially when they're little kids. So it's like, what do I do? I need to find a way to punish them, make sure that they knew what they did wrong, but to the point where, like, I need them to learn and understand that what they did was wrong and want to correct it, instead of just being afraid at my reactions. I don't want him to do well or do the right thing because he's afraid of how I'm going to react if he doesn't, or if he messes up.
Right.
So, like, I know I'm kind of going off on a long thing, but this is actually something that I've thought a lot about, and I'm
Yeah.
still struggling with it, because I honestly, I don't know. All I know is that I don't want to be violent. I don't want to scream, and I don't want to hit him. That's all I know. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm scared. Like, I'm afraid of the first time I'm gonna have to discipline him. You know, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I mean, and you got every right to be afraid, because one thing, I mean, even people who don't have kids may know this or may have heard this, but being a parent never came with like a rule book. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from those mistakes, trial and error. You'll see what works and what doesn't work with each kid. Like Noah may be a kid who, if you see he likes to play video games, you may have to punish him through taking away his video games.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
My dad did stuff like that. It wasn't like always like, it wasn't always hitting and stuff like that. But you know, my dad still did that. He always knew what I was doing. He always made sure that I knew what I did. So, but yeah, stuff like that.
And like one thing that, or the best piece of advice I ever got, you know, becoming a dad, was you have to make sure your kids understand that while, yeah, you can have a close bond with them and you can be, you know, open and friendly towards them, you have to set the line between friendship and parent. You have to like make them respect that hierarchy with you. Like, yeah, I can be your friend, or I can be a friend figure to you, but first and foremost, I'm your dad, or I'm your mom.
Yeah.
Before I'm anything else, I'm that. And that's that. Like, but yeah, I get you. Like, I don't ever want my kids to be scared to come to me and talk, like, regardless of whatever it is. And if they ever were to go the route of like experimenting with a drug like weed or drinking or anything like that, I would feel more secure knowing that they came to me before they turned to the streets to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because things are crazy these days, man. Like, people are lacing weed, people are doing extra things with drugs.
Yeah. And they're gonna find a way to do it anyways.
They're gonna find a way to do it.
Might as well make sure that they're safe while they're doing
I'd rather know about it so that I can show you the right way to do these things, or go about doing these things, versus like one of your friends who may or may not have the best intentions for you.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't want them to go off and get high at some stranger's house in an area they don't know, you know.
And then, not to cut you off, but then and another challenge with me is the fact that I had two girls. I definitely don't want you smoking or drinking with just anybody, because you leave yourself vulnerable to be taken advantage of. And that's becoming a big problem out here too. Women are being taken advantage of, and I don't want that for my daughters, because honestly, I don't know how I react like to the person that took advantage of them. You know, if that were to ever happen, which I pray it doesn't. But that's another thing that worries me, like knowing that they are going to eventually partake in drugs and alcohol. The worry comes from what type of crowd are they going to be doing that around, because you may have somebody in that crowd that is going to be a predator towards them in a way. Like, oh, let's get them fucked up. Let's get them drunk as hell. And then, you know, try to take their pants off and, you know, for lack of a better word, have sex with them while they're like vulnerable and unaware of what's going on. But the thing that I teach them, or that their moms will teach them as well, is never to leave your drink like unattended. Like, that was something I was taught even as a man. Like, never leave your drink unattended. Always have, you know, a friend, or, you know, take your drink with you if you're going to the bathroom, something like that. That way nobody can tamper with your drink. And if you're smoking with somebody, make sure you see them roll it up so that they, you know what I'm saying? Those are just things that, you know, our parents had to learn through trial and error. And that's all it boils down to, is just trial and error.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, if you got anything else you want to briefly say?
No, I think that's it. I think this has gone on for a good bit. Yeah, like a good amount of time. I mean,
it's a good amount of time. It was over 30 minutes, but that's cool with me. I mean, I like when we go overtime, because it shows that we're really delving deep into this and we're really invested in it. So
yeah. Can you stop the recording real quick though?
Yeah. Well, before I do, that concludes this episode of Dad's Talk Shit podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
First episode done. So we're gonna be doing this every Friday. Every Friday, it will be uploaded every Saturday. I'm not sure exactly of the time range yet, but I know it'll probably be sometime around noon. So that's that, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. John Richter.
Thank you. My phone is literally 1%.
Yeah, you're about to die. So yeah, subscribe to the channel, like, comment, follow us on Instagram, Let's Be Real 1. Facebook, Let's Be Real, REEL. And stay tuned for future episodes. And check out 3 Dudes Talk Shit every Wednesday, I believe, on this channel. I mean, 3 Dudes Talking Podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know our friends' podcast name.
Right.
All right.
I know our friends' names too.
I know our friends' names too. I think I know.
Yeah.
All right, man. Take it easy.
All right. See ya.